Welcome back to the EAM Crypto channel. Thank you so much for watching. And this is episode 27 of the upcoming weekly preview. We have a lot to jump into, so I'm just going to jump right in. So first and foremost, we will have a huge day tomorrow with the CPI inflation data coming out. We're going to cover all the different details about it in a second. Then the very next day, after the Fed looks at that information, maybe they already have their minds up, maybe they don't. Then they will make a decision the very next day. So the CPI inflation information will come out at 7:30 Central Time tomorrow. And then on Wednesday, I think it's going to come out at 1 p.m. Central Time as far as the federal interest rates decision. And then on Thursday, we have the retail sales and jobless claims data coming out. And then on Friday, we also have manufacturing and services PMI information coming out. All of these will be moving markets. So you will see volatility straight across the board Tuesday through Friday. Markets are not too crazy today, which is to be expected. But yeah, starting tomorrow, things are going to get really, really crazy before the markets open, or before the traditional markets open, right? Because crypto's open 24/7. So let's get into how things will be happening, because as far as trading this, it's going to be incredibly tricky, and let me explain why. All right, so as far as the CPI data that's going to come out on Tuesday, I guess that will be more kind of like straightforward, right? We'll see if it comes in hot or not versus the expectation. If the data comes in hot, then yeah, you're going to see markets tank. If it doesn't, then you will probably see markets do pretty well on Tuesday. This is on Tuesday, but these are not going to be like long-term things, right? Because one thing we've seen is whether it's when CPI data comes out or the FOMC makes their decision, the very next day, sometimes the market gives it all back. And we could see something like this happen. So let me explain one of the scenarios. So let's say that the CPI data comes in as expected, right? Well, the markets will probably take that pretty well. I mean, markets have not been listening to the Fed all year. Markets consistently keep going against what Powell states, and they've been fighting the Fed, which is one of the things you should never do. And they've been doing it in the last couple of weeks, right, where the market has been pretty hot, even though the SPX is kind of dealing with that trend line that it's been dealing with with forever. But at the end of the day, they haven't really been listening to Powell, and the markets have been relatively hot lately. So one of the things that's happening right now is that there's a huge issue with wage. The wages are just not coming down like Powell and the Fed would like. So that would be a really bad thing if we have hit issues where the wage keeps rising at a very high rate and there's nothing that can be done about it. That will create hyperinflation. It could also create stagflation. It can create a lot of issues. So wages have to be tapered down. So Fed still probably feels like they have to do more about this. So regardless of what happens, just long term, just know that they're still going to be beating that down as much as they can in the months to come, which is why recession seems almost inevitable, assuming we're not already in one that just started. Now, as far as Tuesday goes, very straightforward. I don't have it in front of me. I don't have it memorized, but just look to see what the estimation is of what's expected. And if it comes in hot, then you know how the markets are going to react. They're going to react very negatively because they're going to know that gives Powell more, basically forces him to do more as far as raising interest rates. The balance sheets have already started being reduced quite a bit in the last couple of weeks, which is really interesting to see. They kind of took their time with it, but that's happening now. So we're definitely under the umbrella of quantitative tightening right now, for sure. But I'm kind of going off topic now. So that's Tuesday. And then Tuesday, whatever you do, let's just say that it comes in, it doesn't come in hot, the CPI data doesn't come in hot, and the markets react well to it. I would then take profits that same day because I really expect for on Wednesday things to get really tricky. Now, Wednesday, about 78% of the analysts expect the interest rates to be raised by 50 basis points, and then about 20 to 25% expected to be raised by 75 basis points. The CPI data will tell us a lot about that, right? So the CPI data comes in, doesn't come in hot, then yeah, you can pretty much assume that it's going to be 50 basis points. So this is what I think is going to happen. And this is, again, assuming that the CPI data comes in as it's supposed to on Tuesday. On Wednesday, when Powell states, hey, we're raising interest rates by 50 basis points, the markets at that point will probably react very favorably to it, and you'll start seeing all these green candles. But wait, because there's a lot that happens right after that. We will have to then see. Tomorrow, Wednesday is, I think it's every 3 months, they have to basically give their guidance as to where they see interest rates in 3 months, right? I think it's called SOPE guidance. And he's going to announce that. So we need to see what those numbers look like before he goes into the Q&A part of his conference. So that's going to be something to look out for as well, because if the SOPE numbers look higher than expected, then that could really, really hurt the markets instantly. So first they'll announce 50 versus 75 basis points. Okay, markets will do their thing. Then he'll go into the SOPE piece. Then he's going to take the Q&A, right? And that's when you really have to watch for all his verbiage. Does he sound hawkish? Does he sound dovish? What's he going to talk about the most? Yes, the housing market's starting to cool off, and it has cooled off, but it still has a little ways to go. I'm sure he will talk about the concerns with wages still increasing at a high rate, and so on and so on. Our services costs also increasing at a higher rate like they have been. Are we going to see something different with, energy? I mean, we all know that the Biden administration going into the midterms did everything in their power to keep those costs down and get into the reserve. So it's going to be really, really tricky, because you're going to see up and down, depending on what they're covering during these 2 days. So again, Tuesday, straightforward, but take profits. And then Wednesday, that's when it's going to get really, really tricky. And then what I want to see more than anything is what he has to say as far as guidance, where we're going to be in the months to come, whether or not it becomes even more evident that Q1 is going to be a pretty dire time for risk on assets. So that's where I'm going to be focused on the most. And you just have to be really, really careful with all the data that you consume. Double check everything I say, anyone says. Look, most YouTubers are full of crap. That's why I started my channel. They're just, I mean, it's like, it just keeps getting worse and worse the deeper I am in this YouTube place. Just be careful with everything. You can't even trust like the American Realtors Association and all these others that I noticed have been very, very adamant about the fact that they expect all this growth, and they expect the housing market to grow by X% over the next 12 months. Just know that they're doing that because they don't want to bring in FUD, right, into the housing market. They don't want to make anyone that's on the brink of that's thinking about buying right now to think, well, I don't know. So they have to sound more bullish than things really are, because they want to make sure that they do their part to keep the housing market going in the short term, right? So it doesn't take a genius to know that the housing market is going to keep decreasing. But so when you see data that shows that maybe it won't, check to see the source. And then if it's a source that is a name that you recognize, check to see what their partnership or relationship is with, maybe say like the realtors, I think it's the American Realtor Association, I think is what it's called, because it just gets really, really tricky, and basically everyone has an angle, everyone has their goal, so you have to be careful with all that. You really, really do. So that's how I'm going to be looking at those 2 days. And let's talk about how things are looking with crypto. All right, guys, and I just want to say a huge thank you for all of you guys that are part of our channel. We finally hit the 2,500 sub mark, which is really, really cool. So thank you. Don't know what's going on with YouTube. Some days I look and I lose like 10 or 20 subscribers, and I gain 20 right back. I'll look at a video and it has, I don't know, 1,200 views. I look again, it has 700. Then it balloons up to 1,600. So it's just weird. I don't know what's going on with YouTube and my channel. I've heard other YouTube channels that are in, crypto related say similar things. So I think it's just the algo just doesn't really like our crypto communities. I think that's what it is. So definitely hit that like button, and you haven't subscribed, definitely go ahead and subscribe, and let's just try to beat down these anti-crypto algorithms that YouTube has. I'm probably hurting my viewership right now by saying that. But anyways, let's talk about BTC, what's going on. And by the way, guys, I do all my trading as far as shorting crypto, as far as using leverage, and I never use a ton of leverage. I always go low leverage on Bitget. So check out the link below. It is a link set up for my channel. I get a commission for that, and it really helps my channel, especially since I'm not doing a lot of AMAs. I'm not doing a lot of promo videos right now because I don't want to tell you guys about projects that I know are probably not going to make money for you. So I really do care about how you guys do and how much money you make. So I just can't, in good-hearted nature, tell you guys about projects that I don't think are going to make money. So I've just been having to say no to pretty much everyone. But anyways, let's talk about BTC first and foremost on the monthly. Not looking good still, but nothing's changed. So look, I know I just sound like a broken record, but we're headed to 13.8. We just are. It's just a matter of when. Will it happen before the end of the year? Will it happen Q1? I have no idea. I am the worst when it comes to predicting time frames, but I can just assure you that if you are a follower of traditional analysis and fundamentals, and even if you're not good at it, it's just really hard to look at this and think, nah, we're not heading towards 13.8. We're not heading there on the monthly, where we have one, almost two, three, four, five different points of contact with that level. I mean, it's just impossible to say that that's not where we're headed if you are not ego-based, if you don't think that you know better than TA. And those that came up with TA are far more experienced and in life and these kinds of things, and much smarter than me. And I just saw what they created tells us that we're headed towards 13.8. That's probably where we're going. Anything can happen. Some weird thing can happen to change it, but statistically speaking, that's the most likely scenario. So keep that in mind. As far as short term, I did want to show this. And again, I hate to sound so bearish all the time, but on the 4 hour, if you look at this trend line that started back on November 21st when we hit that low, it did get broken. Look at that, guys. It got broken, which really, really sucks. Got broken right here. And the second that it broke, it just kept going down hard. So, and then to make matters worse, not only did that trend break, we're underneath it, but we tested it for, it's been tested resistance not once, but maybe almost twice, and it's acting as resistance right away. So keep a close eye on that short term. But again, with so much volatility tomorrow with the CPI numbers coming out, and then after that, FOMC data and everything else coming Thursday and Friday, I expect to see a lot happen here, whether it breaks it violently or goes down violently and then maybe comes back and maybe breaks it violently. But just know that short term, when I mean short term, I mean like today, really, we are underneath that trend line. So that is just, again, another bear signal. But again, who knows what will happen tomorrow. On the 4 hour, negative momentum is starting to build. RSI, look at it starting to curl down already. Didn't get very high. Yeah, not good. So not surprising that we'll have kind of like a low liquidity, sluggish, maybe slightly down kind of day today. Does not surprise me, because who the hell is going to get really bullish today unless if someone knows about the data, right? So and I did want to say one thing that I forgot to say in my intro, is that the Fed does not want to surprise the market with horrible bad news. So just keep that in mind. So if it turns out that they are going to raise it by 75 basis points versus 50, that will be leaked in some way, shape, or form on Tuesday. So keep that in mind. I forgot to say that. Nick Timorosos, which I follow on Twitter, he's usually a good source. He seems to have good ties with the Biden administration. Sometimes it could just be, one of the major networks. CNBC, who knows, but keep that in mind, guys. But anyways, so that's how we're looking right now. And again, long term, regardless of what happens in this crazy ass week, which is really more for trading than anything, just know that we're still headed towards 13.8. Ethereum's just going to follow Bitcoin, and there's really not much else to say. Here I am on the 1 hour. On the 1 hour seems to be wanting to go up, so that's interesting. Ethereum looking okay in the 1 hour, so maybe we'll have a nice day the rest of the day. Who knows? We will see what happens there. And then as far as the alts go, I mean, it's just really hard to kind of gauge, because they're going to act in a much more volatile way than Ethereum and Bitcoin, right? So, Link is one that I think went up way too fast, too much, because of that staking narrative that just ended. So I am expecting Link over the next few weeks. Here, maybe on the day is better. But I am expecting this asset to do pretty poorly in the weeks to come, as far as its price action. So not Link, I think. I wish I would have picked an older one than Coinbase, but maybe I should have picked something like Binance. But I really do think that Link is probably going to be headed towards about half of what it's worth right now at some point. So would not surprise me at all if Link kind of Q1 of next year is about maybe 50% of where it's at now. I think Link's going to get hit pretty hard. I think a bunch of these assets are. And, especially like the ones with play to earn narratives like Axie Infinity. I think that one's going to get destroyed over the next month or two. I really do. So let's just say that Bitcoin, when it's all said and done, even though I do think it's headed to 13.8, let's say before that it makes some kind of run, right? Which wouldn't be totally crazy, even on a monthly. It could get as high as like Bitcoin could get as high as like 19, 18, 19, 20K. It can go up as high as 20K and still very much be on a bearish trend all the way down back to 13.8. So just keep that in mind. So when I say that it's inevitably going to 13.8, if things go a certain way over the next really week, with all the data that comes out of what Powell has to say, I mean, we could do a little bear run, a little Christmas Santa run all the way up to 19, 20K would not be shocking. Would not be shocking at all. And then that would just present a beautiful short. I mean, if it could reach 20K, which I don't think it will, but if it can, that would be fantastic. Easy short that, but really not short that, short the alts, because you'll see much bigger gains there. Short the alts all the way back down to 13.8. All right, guys. We had a lot of FUD with BNB, with CZ, with finance. I don't have enough information about this. Really, no one does, other than those in the inside. And maybe the DOJ, right? Since they've been looking at this since 2018, it turns out, which is really surprising to hear that. Just funny timing, right? That they do this while they should be looking at FTX. I still don't understand all that, but whatever. But just, so I don't know. I'm not going to speak to, are they insolvent? Are they not? Why aren't they showing their proof of reserves? Can we trust what they're saying? I don't have enough insight to talk about that. All I can state about BNB, and it's nothing different that I haven't been stating really all freaking year round. A lot of people have made fun of me when I said some of the things that I said, but I'm going to stick to them. And it hasn't changed, guys. It hasn't changed one freaking bit. If BNB cannot hold I think it's where are we? Like, kind of like this 216 range. All right. So it could be anywhere from 216 to about 220. We're going to be headed pretty much for sure to 184. And yes, of course, this is assuming we break, kind of like that 250 range. All right. So 250 to me is kind of like the next big range for BNB. Then after that, it's going to be this range right here, around 220, 216, all the way down to 210, I think it was. So kind of like 216 to 210. If it breaks that, we're headed to 184. If it breaks 184, then there's just nothing there. There's just nothing there as far as support, really until about 140. Kind of like 140 if you want to front run it a little bit, psychological reasons, 150, whatever, that's fine. But then after that, that's where things can get really crazy. And I know I've been laughed at quite a bit when I say it, but a $45, $46 to $48 BNB could be in the works. It could be possible. Not saying it's going to happen, just stating that it's a huge possibility. So what would warrant such a crazy volatile move out of an asset that we think is very, very, very safe? Well, if it's that some kind of really, really bad thing happens, and this narrative of BNB being safe takes a very different turn because of everything that's happening with all this FUD. So if all that FUD is true and this is something that we should be worried about, then yeah, I guess that would happen. So I'm just letting you guys know from a TA perspective what could happen. But of course, for all that to happen, the narrative would have to play out. The FUD narrative would have to play out, which I personally don't think will happen, but I just don't know. I don't have enough info. And then as far as some of the other alts, the ones that are kind of like very kind of like low liquidity, low market cap that I've been keeping an eye on, I don't have any right now. I took an L on one. Smog, I had to take a loss on that one. And what concerned me with Smog was just that the liquidity was dying down. But if I take a look at it, and Smog's liquidity it's down to 24K a day. It was like 3x higher. So if it starts increasing again, then I'll take another look at it. But it'll stay on my watch list. And then as far as the other one, it was Chart. We did pretty well with Chart. We did almost a 2x on it in like less than a day, which is really good this weekend. So I was really happy with that. Same story. The volume kept decreasing, and so I decided to get out of that one, and I'm glad I did because it's down a lot, like 25% since I sold. I do own quite a bit of buffer, so that's one that I'm staking it, and we'll see where it's at. It's a long-term hold for me. So I'm very, very happy with the way it's been going with that one. I'm up considerably on it, and I'm not looking to take profits because I think it's just a good solid play with Arbitrum. I think it's important to have some Arbitrum tokens in the bag at all times right now. It's just so hot. GMD is one we did really well with. I don't currently own any. I obviously own a ton of MDB, and that's about it, I think, as far as what I own on this list right now. I think everything else I'm just kind of in wait and see. Just because these times are not the times to dabble with small caps unless there's a good reason. So for me, it's just, taking a look at what's hot, seeing, there's a number of shillers on Twitter that they seem to do really well with some of their calls. I don't know if they have, those paid signal, kind of scummy paid groups on Telegram. Maybe that's how they're doing it. I have no idea. I don't even care. But if I see them talking about a token, the narrative makes sense to me, the volume's there, the TA looks okay on it, even though TA doesn't really work on these small caps that well, I go ahead and jump in, and we'll see. Well, I'll keep tracking it, telling you guys about it, and so far I'm 1 for 2, almost a 2x on one, and then I lost like 40% on another. So I'll take that all day. Like 80-some% win versus a 40% loss. We'll take that. And that's really about it for now. So yeah, huge week up ahead. I will definitely do a video during the week. I'll probably do a video maybe as early as Wednesday night, maybe even go live if I can. Yeah, that's going to be my goal. So take a look at that. I'll try to go live Wednesday evening so we can kind of figure out the lay of the land after all the craziness of Tuesday and Wednesday. But it's going to be volatile, guys. So have fun, trade safe, and don't trade with money that you can't afford to lose. All right, guys, take care. Thanks for watching.